now my privilege to turn the podium over to the other co-sponsor of the Protection Against Violence for Children bill, and that is Senator Julie Boseman of the Senate.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to see so many supporters here. My fellow senators, thank you for co-sponsoring. Senator Miller just walked out again. This is an important bill we have before us, and I would like to offer my insights on its necessity and value to me personally and to young people across the state who have suffered at the hands of a bully. As we are all aware, this bill has had a long fight over the past several years, and the nature of that fight has become too apparent. While there is consensus among us that bullying of any student in any form is wrong, the practice of bullying has not fallen by the wayside. Intimidation, both verbal and physical, and prejudice in words and actions is played out in schools every day against innocent victims who are going about their business of trying to get an education. This bill directly addresses the definition of bullying. It also demonstrates the need for the regulation of actions and consequences of harassing behavior, and will create a minimum policy mandate that will be applied consistently and stringently across the state. The various policies in place now currently are not serving their intended purposes adequately. James Rogers left his school after being badly bullied. He later moved to a different school where his father said he'd become a different person, but soon began to worry that bullying would start again. James had suffered a great deal at his old school. He would come home with bruises and his clothes torn. It got so bad he started skipping classes altogether and told his mother he would kill himself if he hadn't eaten back. He did. James was found dead the next morning with pills laying around his bed with a note saying his life was not worth living. The shortcomings of the current harassment party are all too evident if you watch the news or read the newspaper. In fact, the ante has been up for the frequency and severity of bullying as evidenced by the tapes we see on YouTube of group beatings and the stories we see about murders and torture being committed on students by students. It is a scary new era we have entered, and students being victimized as well as their parents have good reason to be scared. I'm not under any misguided impression that schools can protect the children all the time. But I think if we go down the path to laying out expectations for good behavior, consequences for harassment, and making available options and resources for those being bullied, then we're headed in the right direction. It is a valid point that many of the physical incidents of violence do not take place on school grounds. It is also true, however, that school is where the victimization process begins. 12-year-old Debbie Shaw challenged the girls to put a stop to the victimization by taking on the school bully. The injuries she received were fatal. The Kendall sisters, Samantha and Michaela, were so taunted and teased about their weight problems they decided to go on a hunger strike, resulting in them both dying. Gemma Bryan Daniels, 14, died of an overdose after being bullied at school by teachers. All of these children have one thing in common. They are continually tormented in school by bullies. My thinking on the heavy resistance to the School Violence Protection Act is that is based on personal prejudice. The argument is that we do not need to delineate different targeted groups. In a perfect world, we would not need this policy at all. But reality is that we do need a policy, and there are kids that fall within certain categories, making them targets to those students predisposed towards intimidation. If we as state leaders cannot accept each other for who we are, Representative Glazier for his religion, Senator Kasich for the color of his skin, me for my sexual orientation, then how can our children manage this challenge? I appreciate the support of my fellow legislators for a number of reasons, but mostly as a starting pay.
Is Senator Julie Boseman.